Hundreds and thousands of people go through sales, open homes every year. So we're going to give you the best hacks and tips as a buyer going through an open home as soon as you set through that front door. Let's go.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
I just got the notification on my phone that Novak Morning Minutes has started this morning.
It's live on Insta.
It's live on air.
It's live.
Oh, how are you, Mark?
Good now, Pat. How's Manly Beach this morning?
Oh, pretty shocking. The surf was terrible, windy, but look, public holiday tomorrow. I think hopefully it's a bit better, but we'll have to see. Maybe it's just the weather's representing the morning of the Queen.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. What do you reckon tomorrow's? What do you reckon our public holiday is going to do for us? What's your punt?
Oh, I don't know. I'm feeling hopeful. I think it's gonna turn out nice tomorrow.
Sunny skies.
Also, before we get into today's topic, I feel like I need to give everyone an update about my washing machine at home, because a few weeks ago we were talking about, is it cheaper to replace the washing machine or repair it? And because I have a broken washing machine, and my landlord decided to replace it after we said that was the cheaper option.
Were they they were waiting for parts originally though, weren't they?
I think so, yeah, because there was something with the control panel, and I think they were evaluating how much it would cost to get the part in to fix it. So I think they just watched our video and got the answers there, if I'm honest.
100%. Hey, out of interest, from breakage to replacement, how long did it take?
It's still been about 3 weeks, I think. Still quite a while, but
a month without it.
Yeah, and that's a month that if you're a landlord, they can sort of argue for a bit of rental relief in that time, because it's included on the lease. So learning curve.
Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, Mr. and Mrs. Real Estate Agent should have just looked at that white good go down, and just said, you know what, day one, as soon as it was reported, just put a new one in there. It's been there for 7 years, 6 years, whatever. Yeah. Bang, all this heartache would have gone.
Yeah, but I just wanted to give that update. But today we're talking about open homes and the top hacks and tips for buyers. And because Wednesday at Novak, Wednesdays and Saturdays are our big open home days. So it's very fitting. If you're going to one of our open homes today, you can take all these tips with you.
Yes. Look, the reality is someone like myself has conducted, I'd maybe even say upwards of 10,000 open homes, would be thousands, I know that, over 30 years. And you learn what the clever buyers are doing and saying and looking for. And the opposite, you look at their people, you just go, what are you doing? It's just a sport for you to go to opens for 6 months, buy a property. So we're going to go through some hacks, tips and tricks. Where do we start?
Well, we've actually got a comment come through, and I feel like this one's an interesting one that we can talk about. Tips, stalk agents. What do you think about Luke's comment, Mark?
Well, the person that's there at the open house is generally going to be the person that's connected to the vendor. So I think it's nice in any negotiation. I think stalking the agent, it's nice to know who you're dealing with, because that's going to be your interface with the vendor. You're not going to get an opportunity to talk to the vendor. This is your opportunity. So I think, building that rapport, knowing the agents in the area, having a good chin wag, in any negotiation, if it's foiled by like head clashing, metal on metal. It's not going to be an easy negotiation. If it's a negotiation that's just full of heart, like just good rapport, bit of love, bit of bromance, bit of belly to belly, I think that's really healthy for negotiating a good price for yourself. So rapport would probably be in my top 10 of when you're at an open house to build rapport. And I think sometimes you even think, what, maybe people just don't, just having a bad day. But I think that if you're buying, you just want to be game on, happy face, and people want to help people that want to be helped. So I think that putting out those vibes is really cool. Like, you know what I mean? If you came through and you're like, hey, we really like it, you're really honest, had a good chat, I'd be like, what a great couple, gonna help them out. And if there's biscuit face that comes through, just tears the place apart, and he's just a mean person, it's like, screw you.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point, actually. Like, I think, so Luke's comment here, again, ask 1,000 questions. I think that's really good point, because you want to ask all the questions about the property, but you don't want to be be talking bad about the property at the same time. So you're like, oh, well, is it like this in every room? Like, I think it's really important, because I think the agent wants to find a buyer who's really going to love the property as much as the vendor has, and is really going to find value in it. And I think being honest, being personable, being friendly is a really good place to start, because people can see through it when you're being fake and trying to be someone you're not. So
now, we teach this to our crew, we teach this to our sales crew, we teach this to our rentals crew. There's a way you can ask a question on the back of what we just spoke about. Luke's just said, ask 1,000 questions. Ask positively framed questions. Negatively framed questions. So when you're asking about parking, you can ask it like this. You can say, does the property have any parking? And then the agent says, yes, it's got a car space or it's got a garage. You're like, oh, great. Positively framed question. Negatively framed question would be, I expect there's no parking on this place. Or negatively framed question would be, this has got a garage, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? There's two ways.
You're asking the same thing, but it's the way you're framing it. It's it's not good.
And I think just in any sort of business, I think it sets the tone. And don't forget, Pat, within 15 seconds, you have decided whether you like that agent or not. 80% of your decision is made within that first 15 seconds. So I think it goes back to that good old-fashioned rapport building. Big smile as a real estate agent, as a purchaser. Eye contact makes a big thing. Positively framed questions.
Yeah. And look, I like this one that Luke's put on as well. So using factual data, so recent sales and comparable sales to the property that you're at. So this is probably very important from a buyer's perspective. So the sales agent should be providing all factual data. They can say that, oh, this room is oversized, it's wonderful, but they can't be making stuff up. And I think that's sort of where the marketing comes into it as well. You have to really read through it carefully, and comparable sales are a really good way to cut through a lot of the marketing material and really just get the straight up facts about a property.
Yep. Walking through the property, what are you looking for at an open house as a buyer?
I think one major thing, well, firstly, just see, I'm a bit biased because I make a lot of the floor plans, and so I always think aspect would be one of the first things I'm looking for. So whether it's north or east facing, south or west, whether there's a balcony, multiple, what direction they're facing, and proximity to the beach. So if one side's got a lot of wind or sand coming in if it's a beachside property, things like that. It's probably what I'd be looking for as someone from the beach.
Yeah, and I think that we learn about aspect as we get older. So I think if you talk with family and friends that are a little bit more senior, they can give you the good oil on that. Because what I often find is someone that's had a north-facing property must always go back into a north-facing property. They never give it up. People that are accustomed to a bad aspect, whether it's a south aspect or a west aspect, they will rebuy into that aspect because they've never had it good with a northern aspect. So I do think on the back of what you're saying, work out which rooms get what. It is important for a living room to get good light. It is nice for a bedroom to get morning light. It's just nice to get good circulation of light through the property, and aspect matters. Aspect also matters with wind. So you will get, and it's not really been a consideration for a lot of people, but you will get aspects that get slammed, like a southerly aspect. Consider that as well when you're buying.
Yeah, definitely. I know we can't open this one window in the house because otherwise it just it turns into Antarctica.
or it whistles.
Yeah. Oh, the whistling. Yeah, that's another thing. But yeah, I think, I don't know, what else should people be looking for? Do you reckon? I think, actually, this is sort of going back to what Sienna and Stevan were talking about on Monday. But I think if you're looking for a bigger place or even an apartment, just looking at the floor plan and how versatile it is. So on Monday, they were talking about the most popular search on realestate.com for apartments are 3-bed apartments. And I think being able to look at a floor plan and looking at if it has any versatility to add a study nook, convert a third bedroom into a home office if need be, especially if you're looking for that flexible space, if you're working from home, I think could be very important in an open home.
Love it. Another thing, when you're buying a property, there are going to be terms and conditions that can be set by the vendor. So when you are buying a property, please find out the motivation of the person that's selling it, because they can make and break this deal. So if you're talking to your real estate agent and you've got them belly to belly on the spot, it's actually good. I do like a surprise question because you get honesty with a surprise question. So try to get these surprise questions out at the open house, because often agents will go blur. And a good one is, what is it okay if I ask why the owner's selling the property? And it's pretty interesting when you understand that diverseness. You can start molding around it a little bit more. So find out what the motivation is. Whatever you're buying, if you find out that motivation of why that person's selling it, that's really good intel to help you get a better deal.
Yeah, and it goes back to talking to the agent with that positively framed question. As you were saying, you're not going to go up and be like, so why are they selling this place? Like,
Spot on.
no.
Yeah. Is it okay if I ask? Yeah.
And look,
a positively framed question would be, I can't believe that an owner would sell such a beautiful property like this. Do you mind me asking why they would? They are actually selling. It's a positively framed. You know what I mean? It's good.
You could say that exact same question, but with an attitude. Like, it's such a nice place. Why are they selling it? Like,
it's
like
true.
it's this. But look, we got this comment coming through from Lisa, which I think is very important as well. So it doesn't end at the open home.
Yeah, so as a buyer, make sure you've got your artillery and firepower around you and set up 24/7. You're confident, your people giving you advice, you've always got that uncle or that dad or that friend that you're going to run it past.
Yeah.
Your broker, your solicitor, that's a really good tip.
And look, I think we have time just for one extra little bit. Storage. which I feel like at an open home, I think is one thing that could be forgotten a lot, because a lot of the time you're looking, what's the living room like? What's the dining room like? Like, what's the kitchen like? But storage is very, I feel if you don't have it, it's one of those things you only realize after you move into a new place.
I mean, that's important. Other things at a house, I think, is price discovery. So we've talked about vendor first that's letting go of the property. But I think it's important a bit of price discovery. For example, is there a price today that the owner would sell the property at? And you're not going to get the answer, but you're going to get some framework around it.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
you may surprise the agent. They're so busy they go blah. Or they may give you some framework. Look, happy to take an offer to the owner. You may say, look, where do you reckon I can bring that offer in? Ask them for guidance.
Yeah, I think the agent at any open home is the golden ticket. I think if you can even talk to them for 30 seconds, I think you can derive a lot of value from. I think that's the big secret. But yeah, sometimes it's tricky, but that's why it's always good to be contactable after the open home from a agent's perspective for the people who maybe didn't have time to ask you a question or are a bit shy going into it, because there definitely are people like that out there.
And I've got a tricky one as well. Have a look at who the real boss of the campaign is.
Oh, yes. That's a very good tip.
Do you want to explain that?
Who the big boss of the campaign is. Yeah, well, you want to get to when you say big boss, it reminds me of like Sonic, like in Mario, like the end like battle between like Bowser. Like you can defeat all the toads, but you got to get to the big boss to win. Like
who's the big boss of the campaign? So we do it as when we deal with the clients, who the go-to person is. The party of three, there's always the go-to person. In an agent's campaign.
What was that, Mark?
In an agent, when you're looking at the campaign and you're a buyer and you're at the open house, are you dealing with the person that's actually going to be with the vendor is very important.
Yes. Yeah. So it's
make sure you're the big boss. So if you have access to 2 or 3 people at the open house, and you are going to be submitting an offer at the open house, for example, the person at the door that's taking the name and numbers that maybe not talking to the vendor, is not the real person you want to be submitting your offer to. You want to look for the person that's running the campaign at the open house. So you want to be talking to the big boss, the listing agent, not the support team.
Yeah, I think it's doing your research into figuring out who the big boss is and sort of having a list of questions. Which ones can I ask the mini bosses and which ones do I want to ask the big boss? So you're not wasting.
You may get more out of one than the other.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to waste your time with the main agent asking does it have 2 bedrooms or 1? Like, they don't need to tell you that.
No. And there may be a bit of the young ones may divulge a little bit too much, or so it's interesting. I think it's the open house it's a real mix of property, of agent, of vendor representatives. It's incredible. So hopefully help people today with that.
Yeah, today was good, and I hope everyone has a lovely public holiday tomorrow, and hopefully today, if for the people watching, they take that to our open homes today. Some of those tricks, because I think it's very valuable. Easy.
Happy open house day today, and thanks, Nat Pat.
Thanks, Mark. Have a lovely day.
All right, legend. See you, everyone.
See ya. Bye.